Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences.
My boyfriend thinks I am cheating, and has reasonable grounds to believe so, but he is still wrong. So, a few months ago we had a huge argument and decided not to talk for a few days. Well, he decided that mostly, and I was very hurt by it. I was scared and I thought we would break up with me at the end of those 3 days. I was feeling miserable and I needed a friend, so I spent some time with a guy that I had been friends with for about 2 months before the incident. My BF was always a bit jealous of him, but we weren't even that close. We weren't too flirty. I just laughed a lot with him and never felt any kind of sexual/romantic potential. While my BF wouldn't let me talk to him, I spent a bit more time with this guy than I used to before, and eventually he invited me and some others to his place, so I went, but I ended up being the only one there. I didn't feel threatened or hit on, so I stayed. I knew my BF would have a hard time believing that nothing happened, but I thought that I personally would, after some time, and honestly I felt like just doing something enjoyable since I felt like shit. If there was something else more interesting to do that night, I would have gone for that, but nothing came up and I'm not the type to initiate some sort of sleepover or stuff like that. So the day after, I met my BF and he told me how much he missed me and doesn't want to have any more days in which we don't talk. He seemed like he was genuinely a lot more interested in me after this break, the opposite of what I had expected. So I realized the gravity of me sleeping at that guy's place and the risk of him not believing me, and I cried a lot and apologized and told him. As a first reaction he believed me totally, but some weeks passed and he started to doubt that I had told him the whole truth. I answered all of his questions. He even talked to the guy and had me talk to him on the phone while he listened. He literally heard my friend say the words as he figured out that nothing happened, but still has a hard time believing me. He claims it's really easy for two people to do something sexual and decide not to talk about it again, even privately, and he is scared of the thought that something might have happened that he will never know about. He has become quite obsessed with this issue and it's been quite a long time. I know I caused this, but I feel like I've talked to him about it for quite some time now and he seems to be better. Then a few weeks if not days later, he needs to talk about it again and we're back to square one if not worse. It's been almost 3 months. What can I do to make him see that nothing happened that night? TLDR, slept at a male friend's house after having an argument with my BF. I didn't cheat, but he doesn't believe me. There's no practical course you can take to resolve this. There's never going to be evidence of you not sleeping with him. If your boyfriend won't believe that you didn't sleep with him, then just end the relationship because this resentment won't go away. You don't have to necessarily cater to your partner's paranoia, but if you want your relationships to last, you have to choose your actions a little more tactfully when they tell you their feelings. If your boyfriend is worried and insecure about a new guy in your life, going to spend the night at his house is pretty much the worst thing you can do. Hell, if someone asked me now, I wouldn't put money on you not having had sex with him. That one comment explains everything, the other confuses. You'll learn that in life it's not always about what you did or didn't do. A lot of times just the appearance of having done something or not done something is enough to hurt your reputation. When you went to the other guy's house, did it never cross your mind how would my boyfriend perceive this? I'm sure it did, but you didn't care cause you thought he was going to break up with you anyway. Ultimately, you made a poor decision knowing full well what the consequences could have been, and now you're living it. Sure, your boyfriend could try harder to get over it, but honestly doesn't sound like he will or can. Either you guys break up or stay together long enough that this eventually fades into the past, but I doubt he'll ever truly 100% believe you that nothing happened. I think it's normal for someone to want space after getting in a huge fight, but I can totally understand why you were anxious and scared and wanting to do something fun. But, you knew your boyfriend had always been kinda jealous of this guy. And you decided to go sleep at his house. It would be one thing if you just hung out for a few hours or if it was a group sleepover. But you slept there by yourself with just him. I don't know that I would be able to believe you either. I think couples counseling might be worth giving a try since he keeps coming back to this topic. But he's not being unreasonable with his suspicion, and I think you know that. I hope this all eventually works out well for the both of you. I have a feeling she poison pilled her relationship, the trust is gone and isn't coming back anytime soon. I know I wouldn't believe her story if I was him, it would just eat at me to the point I would have to end it. You are not going to be able to convince him. He's not going to get over it anytime soon. If you stay together, it will be because he's forgiven you for cheating in his mind, not that he finally believes you. That's not healthy for either party. Just break up, move on, and learn from this. Fighting with a so sucks, but it doesn't mean you should immediately run to another guy for support that you know he doesn't trust. Talking to him on the phone would have been fine if you really needed to talk to someone. Taking a few days to cool off is nothing, and if you can't handle that, then you need better coping mechanisms than relying on anyone you can to make you feel better. You knew what sleeping over this guy's house would look like, but you did it anyway because it felt good at the time to spend time with him. No impulse control there. Take that as a lesson that what might feel better now, can cause way more pain in the long run. Sometimes short-term suffering is better. You went to another guy's house and spent the night. You're surprised he thinks you cheated? I wouldn't believe you either. You're 18 and 20, I think it's best to let this relationship go. I think your BF was in the wrong to begin with. I understand needing time to cool off after an argument, but ignoring you for days is not acceptable in a serious relationship. I do think on some level you might have felt you had the upper hand a bit by staying at that guy's place. You knew your BF wasn't comfortable with you spending time with this guy. He essentially tricked you to going to his place alone. I can appreciate you wanting to feel like you got back at your BF given his bad behavior, but as the saying goes, two wrongs don't make a right. Him being shit doesn't allow you to be shit in return, or without consequences. Either way, your BF now doesn't trust you, which is the most fundamental part of any relationship, so I would cut my losses and move on if I were you. This seems like the most balanced answer here. OP did mess up, but it's worth noting that it's not solely her actions that contributed to the breakdown in the relationship, which is likely going to end. Mature, supportive, and loving partners don't refuse to talk to their so for days on end. That's is asking for trouble in a relationship just as much as what OP did. It's not worth pointing fingers during the breakup that will inevitably happen, but this is an additional important thing for OP to know going forward, as well as the issues on her considering how she deals with perception/one-upping others have already mentioned. You've lost the trust. You are young, and need to make mistakes to learn. You may never get the trust back, and if that is the case, you need to let the relationship go. So literally nothing happened. Like, you slept on the couch, not in his bed. You didn't make out or anything. Consequences. You are learning about them. Your relationship with your boyfriend will never be the same because you can never prove 100% that you didn't sleep with him. There's no way to prove you didn't do something. I am sorry, but at this point I think this relationship is dead in the water. But look, he is jealous and you guys don't seem to have similar fighting styles, as you were very hurt by him wanting to not talk for a few days. Plus, you are only 18. I think this is the time to walk away from this relationship and move on. Don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't cheat, so you aren't guilty of that. And now you have learned something important about perception and trust that you can take into your next relationship. I can see how from his point of view he will never be able to fully trust you again. And that will eat away at him and your relationship and slowly destroy it, which is why I think it's best if you just move on now. LOL, just end it, you silly goose. Your reaction to having a fight with your boyfriend was to seek the comfort of another man. Even if you didn't sleep with him, you betrayed your partner's trust and engaged in an emotional affair. The reason you're fighting is because you cheated, and neither you nor he is mature enough to express or understand that you can cheat without having sex. So instead of acknowledging the betrayal of trust, you're getting defensive, and your BF knows he's been wronged and betrayed but can't articulate it, and every time he tries to you get defensive again. So just end it? You can't fix this. Take this as a learning opportunity. Sounds like he doesn't want to believe you. Also, there's no point anymore. I think you are enjoying this drama. You sound more into the other guy. Your BF is stupid to stay and wallow in drama too. You know we can see post history even if you delete it, right? My advice would be to find something more constructive to do with your time. Both of you messed this up. You had a serious fight and your boyfriend decided not to talk to you for 3 days, a very cruel and manipulative thing to do. This made you feel insecure in your relationship, so you began cultivating a new one. In a serious relationship, you don't stop taking care of each other even if you're angry with one another. You might not go out for the fun things you normally do, but you also don't cut the other person off. You're going to have fights and disagreements in a relationship. If the only way the two of you can handle that is by not talking to each other, you're in for a bumpy ride. That said, you were right to feel insecure as a reaction to this. It's a bad sign. But you don't start cultivating a new relationship before ending the old one. Are you going to run to another man for reassurance every time you have a serious fight with your so or feel insecure? That's not going to work well for you. You're both very young, there is no reason for you to try and salvage this one. Just move on and do better next time. If a guy tells you he's mad so he can't talk to you for 3 days, tell him not to bother calling on the 4th day. And if you're having the kind of nasty fights where that reaction seems justifiable, change your fight style.